your eye on Delta.
Hello everyone and welcome to Sportswave. I'm Steve Erickson, situated out front of the Sun God Arena. We're going to turn our attention for this month's show featuring on some of the summer sports that happen in our own area. Of course, one of the big popular events that happen in Delta is that of lacrosse. Lacrosse in Delta has always had a big following. We've gone to major national championships. We had a chance to talk to Jim Canel with the South Delta Minor Lacrosse, also president for North Delta Minor Lacrosse. We spoke to Bill Hobson about the endeavors that North Delta undertakes. Also, we had a chance to go to the Delta D's Rowing Club, talk to Lyle Gatley about the events that they host on a regular basis now, again, that this nice weather's upon us. And also, we had a chance to talk to a gentleman that's involved with the Delta Physiotherapy Clinic. And we really want to focus on sporting injuries, because sporting injuries is something that people go out, they participate in the sport, they play the game, but they forget to remember that you've got to respect your bodies. And the gentleman that we got involved on this segment was Chuck Radcliffe, and he is the physiotherapist for Delta Physiotherapy. So without any further hesitation, let's go to the show. Bill, president for North Delta Minor Lacrosse, you've got a big job ahead of you this year. We want to know a little bit about the history of the lacrosse and the number of teams and everything.
Well, we've got in North Delta, we have one mini take, one take team, one novice team, two peewee, two bantam, and a midget team. And although our numbers are up, our rosters are big this year. We've got 16, 17, 18 players in a roster, and our mini take and take divisions that we struggled in the last few years, that's our feeding ground, you know, just like in hockey. We've got those numbers up, and that's really looking good this year. So we're very happy there. So we've got teams in every division in minor lacrosse.
Okay, how long has the association been in conception right now?
Well, North Delta Lacrosse has been around for about 20 years. Okay, actually, I think it's our 21st year. And it was started in North Delta. They played outdoor games and practices at, I think they started at Gunnarsson Box, where the Gunnarsson Box is now. And, you know, so there's a bit of a history there. And while we're talking, if anybody out there has any memorabilia for North Delta Lacrosse, we'd like to have it in our trophy case at the Sun God.
Yeah, always nice to have. Okay, now, the number of people involved, a lot of volunteers behind the scenes. Give us an indication of the numbers.
Well, we've got, it starts with our board of directors is about 10 to 12, depending on, you know, what we have. We have a president, two vice presidents. We have a treasurer, a scheduler who does scheduling, and she's also our registrar. We have a head team manager for the managers of the association. We have a head coach and a head referee, and things like that. So there's about 10 to 12 of us on the board, and then of course we're always looking at 1, 2, 3 coaches on every team, and a manager. And some training experience and things.
Is lacrosse for your job anyway? Is it seasonal? You go from, we'll say, July possibly till maybe the end of the summer?
Myself as a president, I attend Lower Mainland meetings once a month all year except August. I think there's August or September we miss one. The rest of the year I'm at least one meeting. And then we have our own board meetings starting in September, so I do 2. And then, of course, we have special meetings for tournaments and opening day and all that neat stuff.
Now, North Delta Lacrosse falls under the umbrella of the BC Lacrosse Association, operating out of Burnaby. It's a big association. There's lots of organizations, lots of minor teams, as well as intermediate lacrosse, as well as going up to the Junior A, Junior B, and also the WLA lacrosse. Now, let's talk about intermediate. Do we have a feeder system, or do we have an intermediate lacrosse team like we used to in the past?
In North Delta, we don't have an intermediate team. We've been looking for a couple of years at getting an intermediate team here. We've got some boys that have graduated from midget and last year and this year who can play intermediate A. And our plan here is to get an intermediate team here next year. Okay. Yeah, but we haven't had an intermediate team in North Delta for about I think 1991. 1991 was the last year.
Where they used to be called the Tomahawks?
Yeah, Tomahawks, and then we changed it to Hawks, and we changed the colors of our uniforms. But yeah, we'd love to have a junior team or a senior team in this rink. We've got the rink for it in North Delta. I mean, the Sun God Arena, look at the facilities, fantastic, okay? one thing that really spurns a lot of activity in the lower levels with lacrosse is if you have the big guys playing. So if you have a senior team or a junior A team or both, you get a lot more activity. Your numbers get up because the kids are more exposed to the game and they can see the big guys on a regular basis.
They look up to him as well. They idolize him. No different from a hockey player.
Exactly. They look up to him. They love to watch the game at its highest level, and then you get more recruits. You get more people into the game.
What's one of the biggest concerns that you've got with North Delta Minor Lacrosse? I know floor time is a major concern.
Floor time has always been concerned because, of course, we've got ball hockey, as you know, that are vying for floor time in here. So basically, it's a short season, spring and summer. We got the two venues vying for the floor time here, and we really, of course, can't get in until the ice is out. Then once the ice is back in, we're finished.
So it's pretty well a short season.
It's a short season. We haven't had a playoff game in North Delta at the Sun God for, I bet you, 3 or 4 years. None of our teams. We've always had to play in other venues. But this year we may get some floor time at the rec center because they're going to be doing some maintenance at the end of June. So they've said that, yeah, we might get some playoff games. That would be great.
It sure would.
Yeah.
Good for the association.
Yep.
Any major tournaments you've got coming up?
We have 2 tournaments in North Delta. We have a Bantam B tournament. I think it's the weekend of the 24th of May, and it's full. We filled that thing up like nothing, I think, in a week or two.
What about number of teams? How many teams?
We got 8 teams. We got them coming from Kelowna. We've got them coming from the island. I think there's somebody from the interior, so things are really looking good there. It's a great tournament.
Okay, now you mentioned that briefly. What's the lacrosse compare like in the interior to what we've got down here?
Well, it all depends, you see, because if you take the interior or the Okanagan or the north, what they do mostly is they might have 4 or 5 Pee-wee teams and they'll play house, where we have to tier down here. We have to tier A1, A2, B, or C.
So they could have a stacked house team.
Yeah, so they could have a stacked house team, but what they do, they have no requirement to play X amount of games on their team to come into provincials. So what they can do is they could have 3 Pee-wee teams, and at the end of their season, pick one all-star team and come down to the provincials, or in this case, the A2s are up in Kelowna this year, so we're looking forward to see what happens there.
Somehow that just doesn't seem like it's too feasible for the associations in the Lower Mainland.
Yeah, we are, of course, stronger. The Lower Mainland has not, we have 65% of the lacrosse population, Lower Mainland, okay, in the province. Yet we seem to be losing a little control when it comes to our voice. Kelowna has the A2 championships. There's people on the minor direct. The commissioner of the minor direct is from the island, so. What do you contribute for the success of lacrosse in the Lower Mainland? Is it successful because of the fact that we've got the WLA based in the Lower Mainland and the growth of that? I think that helps, right? But I think it comes down to the enthusiasm of the volunteers, the people on the executives, and all the associations. Like I mentioned, we meet all year round, and I'll tell you, we put in a lot of time to promote the sport, and the BCLA helps a lot with their posters and with getting their senior players down here in these exhibition games and things like that. But we're fighting with baseball, soccer, every other sport to get.
It'd be nice. I've heard from a lot of different people. What they've said is they'd like to have, like, not only an exhibition WLA game here at the start of the season, they would also like to see a league game here throughout the course of the season as well.
Yeah, we have. We'd love to, and this offer is open to any WLA team. We would love to get a game or 2 or 3 in here during the season. We get the fans in, promote the game in the area. We'd love that. Okay, but it hasn't happened yet. But last year we had the North Shore Indians in here practicing at the Sun God every Monday night, and that was good.
Yeah. Adds a lot to the association, especially when, as you say, the young people can come out and join them and watch them and stuff like that. Good for them. So, okay, now last question. Somebody wants to get a hold of you for lacrosse. What's your number where they can contact you?
You would call 596-7925. That's myself, Bill, or Kerry Patrick at 591-9540. And by the way, we're still looking for some Bantam players, which would be guys born, or gals, born 84, okay? 83, 84?
Okay.
No, 84, 85.
Bantam, either way, it's a Bantam player, right?
When you get older, you lose it, eh?
Don't say that too often.
Well, we've, 84, 85, born in those years. We could use a few more Bantam players. Okay. So if anybody wants to come in, we can use you.
Okay, good. So if somebody wants to get registered for minor lacrosse in North Delta, give Bill a phone call, and he's giving you the numbers, and he'll be more than receptive to look after you. Thanks, Bill.
Right on. Thank you.
Both North Delta and South Delta Minor Lacrosse, although working the minor program, they both have separate executives that work their associations completely different. Both coincide each other. They both teach the young people how to play lacrosse, especially the fundamentals. We had a chance to talk to a gentleman with the South Delta Minor Lacrosse, Mr. Jim Canel.
I'm involved on the executive as the vice president of Delta Minor Lacrosse here in Ladner and Hobson, and we're totally separate from North Delta Minor Lacrosse, and being a member of the executive for the last 4 years. And as part of the executive, we try to promote the game of lacrosse here in Delta, and as you know, it's got a very rich tradition. It's being played here for over 70 years, and we're very pleased to give children as well as young adults the opportunity to continue playing the game here, and we're very appreciative of the support that the community has been giving us to continue playing the game, and so we're really pleased with the growth that we've had in the game.
How many children are involved in the association?
We're getting pretty close to about 300 players, and
throughout Ladner and Hobson?
Ladner and Hobson, and we pretty well doubled in the last 2 to 3 years in terms of our growth, and we're really pleased with that, and we have more and more children looking at playing the game, and so we're finding that we just want to encourage as many kids playing, and we have kids as young as 5 years of age playing the game in our mini tykes, and that's been a real added bonus for our program.
The lowest?
That's the lowest.
Lowest age group.
Is mini tyke. So we'll take a child even as young as 4 years of age, 4, 5, and we'll take that child, and right through the whole system, they could be playing the game of lacrosse right into their 20s and 30s. And in fact, there's a master's program here in Delta Lacrosse in which players over 30 years of age can still continue to play competitively. So it's a sport that can be played right from being a young child of 4 or 5 right up to your 30s or older.
Can you just quickly go through the age groups or divisions that you have?
Sure. Basically what we have is our 4, 5, and 6-year-olds are our mini tykes. Our 7 and 8-year-olds are our tykes, and our 9 and 10-year-olds are our novice, and the 11, 12-year-olds are our peewee. 13, 14 are our bantam, and 15, 16 are our midget players, and 17, 18 are intermediates, and 19 to 21 are our juniors, and then after 21 we have our senior pioneers that have been here for many, many years.
And they play out of the Ladner Arena?
Yes, both the pioneers play out of Ladner Arena, of course, as well as the minors. They play both out of Ladner and the South Delta Arena in Hobson, where both of those arenas are used strictly for games, and we use the outdoor boxes here. They're used every day, particularly during the months of April, May, and June, and partially of July for practices, strictly practices. We don't have games being played at this point in the outside outdoor box.
Now, you mentioned that your league is expanding probably double in the last 2 or 3 years. Do you have a problem finding time in the arenas?
A little bit as we start to grow, because we see ourselves our quality of players are getting better and better, and we're now playing what they call A-caliber lacrosse, and which means that Delta Lacrosse plays the very best lacrosse against other teams, other associations in the province. So we play at a level now in which we play with the very best people that play the game of lacrosse in British Columbia. So as a result, with our growth, we're always looking at getting practice time if we can, and game time, of course, in both the arenas. Yeah, so there's always that bit of a concern. But our growth has not been stagnant. Our growth has been continued, and we're really pleased about that.
Hey, Jim, tell me a bit about your executive.
Yeah, we basically have 4 to 5 members on our executive, and presently right now we have Denise Taylor as our president, and we have Kim Vincent as our treasurer, our secretary, and Carol Taylor is our treasurer, and myself. So we try to keep the basic executive in place, and try to give the kids an opportunity to play the game and keep the registration affordable. And counting that with, we must have over 40 coaches, all volunteer coaches. With the teams, we have to try to get 2 to 3 coaches per team, and a lot of them are parents that are learning the game, and we also insist that our coaches become certified. In other words, that they take the recommended and level 1, level 2 courses that are put out through the Canadian National Coaching Certification Program, and so that just helps having good people behind the bench, as well as we have all the volunteers that are involved, the team moms, and very much like the other minor sports like your hockey and soccer, which involve the team moms, the team parents that take
And nobody's paid for their time. They're just doing it for the love of the game.
Yeah, everyone's a volunteer, and we're really, really fortunate in that we have a tremendous group of volunteers, a very good group of people that get along with each other and help each other out. And I've been very fortunate these last 4 years to be involved on the executive and to help and promote the game of lacrosse. So I'm very, very pleased with all the wonderful volunteers that we have in our program here in Delta.
Down at Dees Island Park, we're going to talk to the gentleman that's past president for the rowing club, Lyle Gatley. Lyle, tell us a little bit about the club, when it got started and how it got started.
Okay, the club started back in 1986. We started with a high school rowing program. We built that program up over a couple of years and realized we had a problem because we had a couple of boats, no place to store the boats. So most of our kids were rowing out of South Dallas Secondary. In fact, the first time we had anybody come to advertise for it in the school, we came up with 60 kids showed up.
What was the reason for the actual start of the club?
A couple of us who have been involved in sports at an international level decided it was maybe payback time. You know, we were sponsored and carried for our rowing career. We thought it was time to maybe give something back to the community.
You've had a fairly successful career as well.
I had a fairly unsuccessful career as a rower, but I had some good times, and I went to some international meets and rowed for Canada at one point in the Olympic Games.
So, nice honor.
Yeah, yes, it was wonderful. And we had some other people in the club like Joy Farah who's done the same. Over the last few years, we managed to build the club from a high school program strictly to now we have a program which involves about 100 adults as well, and a master's program, and another probably 100 students as well who are rowing competitively.
So you work very close with the younger people in the high schools?
I don't, but we have a rowing program that allows us to do that. We've got some very fine coaches. In fact, I think we're fortunate enough, I would guess our head coach maybe is one of the finest technical coaches in the Lower Mainland.
And we watched, as we were coming down, we watched some of the young people putting the boats in the water, and you can tell me if it's the right terminology or wrong terminology, but as we watch them put them in, there's different types. There's some with have 2 seats, some with 4, and some of them we see out there with 8.
Yeah, there's 2 types of rowing. One is one style, if you have a single blade in your hand, then you are doing sweep rowing. So you obviously can't do that on your own, or you're running in circles. So sweep rowing involves at least 2, which would be a pair. Then we would go up to a 4, and that could be a 4 with or without a coxswain. And then we also have an 8. If we have 2 blades in our hand, then we can be in a single, and that's what Silken Lawman was doing in the Olympics. We can also be in a quad, which is 4 people, a double, and there's no 8 for them.
Okay, what's the size of the boats, and what weight might we be looking at?
Well, an 8-man shell is probably 60-65 feet long, and a racing shell might weigh as little as 350-400 pounds. The shell that you saw us bring down here a little earlier is one of our work boats, and it probably weighs about 500 pounds, so it's designed to last a little longer.
And they're not that thick either.
Oh, no. In fact, the really good shells are very, very light, very thin. The hull on those boats is probably 1/8 of an inch thick. And in the old wooden boats, you could fracture a hull pretty easily. You just step in the wrong spot and you go right through it.
Now, what type of person could come down here and actually row for your club? I know you've got a yearly membership fee. Could I come down? I mean, now virtually I know nothing about the sport other than watching it on television like the rest of the people. Could I get involved?
Well, now we have more programs for adults than we've ever had before. Let's go the whole gamut. If you're a high school student, we run a Learn to Row program in the summers for high school kids, and then we run a very extensive competitive program over the course of the winter. For adults now, we have 2 ways you can row. One, you could join our Learn to Row program, which is about $180 for 10 lessons. And we have, I think, 10 sessions of that, so it's just a case of phoning the club to find out. We also have a community challenge, which is new for us this year. And in that case, we've gone around to different community organizations and businesses and said, would you like to come down and row? So for eight lessons, $100 a person, your company come down and we'll teach you how to row. And what that really does is teach a number of people, 8 people, how to work well together, because you can't row a shell unless you're all working together.
Well, we were talking earlier on about the fact that, if they didn't put the oar in the water properly, a person could seriously get hurt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll give you an example. Joy Farah is a very, very accomplished Olympic rower. And what did they call her? She actually, in a race, this is the story I've heard, she caught a crab and got thrown right out of the shell. Now, catching a crab is just basically you put the blade in incorrectly, if everybody else in that boat's driving at the same time and you can't, that blade's going to whip around on you, and it threw it right out of the shell. So, yeah, if you've got a powerful crew, you can get hurt.
That's like trying to shift the car in reverse when you're going 100 mile an hour.
That would do it.
Boy, oh boy, would that ever come to an abrupt stop. Now, we watched the people out here. We talked about, who can get involved. Okay, now, I'm a little larger than some of the young people I've watched go in the boats today. Is there a size that possibly, people couldn't get in the boat?
That's one of the reasons why I was so involved in this club at the start, is I rowed when rowing was a very elite sport. You did it through UBC or you did it through a private school. Now, especially in this club, anybody can row, any size, any shape. We've got some people in this club who are in their 60s, who are rowing competitively this summer at the Nike World Masters Games. We've got some people who are maybe 25, 30 pounds overweight in their 40s, who are out here rowing on a regular basis, enjoying themselves and getting good exercise, and they're not competitive. And we've got big people like myself that are either rowing part-time and enjoying it, or even being competitive. So it's open to anybody.
Obviously, there's no real age restriction for people. Young people, you would not naturally want younger people involved at a real young age.
The starting point is just size. If you're too small, if you're really too small, it's going to be hard to get out there and row. But we also need coxswains, someone to control the boat for us.
Okay, now the fun is still there for everybody, but once these people get past the initial stage of going on and going out to compete just, within their own community, where do they go from here, especially to get to the Olympic level?
Yeah, our head coach, Lee Holyoke, decided a couple of years ago that we had a gap in our program. We had a high school program, we had a master's program, and there was nothing for the collegiate. So she developed a collegiate program, and we've had college kids rowing out of this club rather than having to go to UBC or University of Victoria. So that's been a real bonus for us, because what we didn't appreciate was those are the kids that come back and help us coach the high school program.
Well, Silken Lauman, coming from Victoria, she's really put the club on the map too.
Oh, yeah, well, not just Silken. We've had, I think rowing is probably the highest. We have probably the highest number of medals in Olympic sports in rowing than any other sport. And we don't hear about some of the others. Silken is an incredible athlete, but hundreds of other athletes have done almost as well, with lots of gold medals and stuff. In fact, one of our coaches, Mike Rasher, coached for us when we first opened the program here, and 8 years later he was in the Olympics, gold medal.
Now, sponsorship, is it tough to get sponsors on board to come out and help you out? Because nowadays fighting for the almighty dollar seems like a tough thing.
We've had, when we started building the boathouse, we needed a lot of community help. I mean, we had no funding. We had just an idea, and this community backed us 100%. Stan Thomas at Delta Cable was very, very helpful. Delta Credit Union was very helpful, and other organizations that put a little money in the pot for us to get us rolling. I guess we rely a lot on funding from the government through lotteries.
Yeah, what's the future of the club?
Well, we're just in the business now of doing a complete relook at what we're up to. We're doing a 5-year plan, and we're going to expand the boathouse, because I think we can double the size of this program, and we're just doing a business plan to see if that's feasible, whether it's economical. But I think the business of building this boathouse and expanding it is going to happen for sure. We've got about a third of the money already from different sources, and we've got the architect with the plans. We're going to go ahead with it.
Okay, so if someone wants to get involved in rowing, what's the phone number?
Oh, now it's funny you should ask that, because I just happen to have a brochure in my hand here. If you're looking at a Learn to Row program, there's the number. What is the number, please?
946-3074.
Well, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Lyle, thanks very much, and continued success with the club.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Sports, injuries, pretty well synonymous. The two of them go hand in hand. In Delta area, no different from any other area in the country, we see people go out, they participate in any different sport, whatever it might be, and it doesn't matter what age you are, you participate in a sport, but you always want to compete at the level you competed at last year, especially with the intensity and the desire and the dedication to participate. Well, we've got to change your train of thinking on that, because we have to get you to understand it's very important. One is to respect your body. Two is to go out and, no matter what anybody might tell you, do your warm-up exercises. And in light of that, we wanted to really get right down to the basics in that, so we went over and talked to the Delta Orthopedic Physio Clinic with Chuck Radcliffe. We're at Delta Orthopedic and Physiotherapy Clinic here on Scott Road. We're with Chuck Radcliffe, and we're going to talk about sporting injuries, because it's that time of the year, Chuck, where people always turn their attention to going out, considering the nice weather's here now, and they always have this big tendency of getting injured in the most precarious position. Now, let's talk first off about sporting injuries. Baseball is very prevalent. The young kids put their skates away. They play baseball. What's some of the sporting injuries you deal with?
Well, you're right, Steve. We do see a lot of injuries this time of year associated with baseball. In baseball, we especially see shoulder injuries. That's probably the most common. Elbow would probably be a close second, and then back injuries, something that happens not so much with the kids, but with the weekend warrior, the older middle-aged.
Wannabes.
Yeah, the wannabes or wases, those kind of guys with the back injuries in baseball.
Okay, now let's talk about the young kids first before we go on to the adults. The young kids, the biggest thing that I find is I go out and I watch them on the ball diamond. They go on the diamond, and no disrespect meant to the coaches, they don't have a proper warm-up.
That often is the case, is that warming up is something that's overlooked or hustled into, and probably one of the most important things with respect to, especially with throwing, with pitching, is elevating the temperature of the muscles before you get into something as vigorous and as hard on the body as throwing is.
Okay, now let's focus on pitching first off. We talked about that because whether you're an outfielder or infielder, you've got to throw the ball. You were talking about shoulder injuries, rotation as well as the elbows injuries.
Yeah.
How or what concerns do you have that they maybe should correct?
Well, there's a few things. Warming up is a really important one, and not only each time you go out, but building a base for throwing is important too. So that means going out, starting by throwing softly or not as hard and warming up that way, and then as the season goes on, progressing into harder throwing week by week as well. Secondly, looking at proper instruction, getting proper mechanics down is a really critical part of the throwing, and that can be from a qualified coach or a professional. It goes a long way protecting the body, protecting the shoulder. And then the third thing, which is our bias here, the physio clinic obviously is an individual assessment of the body with respect to muscle balance. Is the flexibility equal on both sides of the shoulder joint? Is the strength there? Is the trunk strength there? Is the hip strength there? Because throwing, as you know, isn't something that just comes from the shoulder. It starts in the legs, and good lower body strength and flexibility is equally important.
Okay, well, if they were going to throw the ball for the very first time in the season and they did throw the ball, where might they feel some pain?
Probably the shoulder. That's
okay, which area? If I turn my back, which you can show me on my back?
Probably they feel pain somewhere in this area here, Steve. It would probably either be in the front here or in the back, and it would be from probably throwing too hard and without warming up properly.
Okay, and the elbow area?
Elbow area, the most common area on the elbow is the inside of the elbow here. The throwing motion is in this position here, and the force is applied to the inside of the elbow. So mostly the inside of the elbow.
So it's with the rotation?
It's with the rotation and sort of the whipping motion you get as you bring the arm through.
Okay, and now we turn our attention to the older people. As we said earlier on the wannabes, they go out, they sit behind a desk all week long, or they do lack of strenuous work. Yeah. They go out and they play on the ball diamond on the weekend, and they really overexert themselves.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Steve. And not only that, but a lot of them have wear and tear injuries or previous injuries from sporting injuries in the past. Their muscle system has become somewhat softer than it may have been in the past, not always. And they go out and throw hard, and it exposes those areas.
And some of them also, they're a little bit overweight. They've gained 1 or 2 pounds, and that just comes to say.
Yeah.
They've gained a few pounds, so they go out and they try too hard. They overexert themselves, as we said, and you know, it's the importance of warming up and the real respect for their own body.
It is. That's really important. Baseball is a sport where you have a lot of explosive maneuvers happening, but they don't happen that often. And so it's important that the body temperature, the muscle temperature is elevated before that happens, and because if it's not, it leaves the tissues and the joints vulnerable to injury.
Now, we try to focus this month's show on summer sports, that being lacrosse, either North Delta or South Delta minor lacrosse. Both executives operate in the same unique fashion. They teach and they focus on the skill and the development of lacrosse for the younger players. They teach them. Congratulations to them for that, because both associations have an exceptional program. Also, we went to the Delta D's Rowing Club. I was quite amazed, because when I first went there, I didn't know anything about it, but now I'm not going to be a scholastic rower, but I know a little more about it now than what I did before. We also wanted to focus on injuries, summertime injuries, that being golf, the favorite pastime of a lot of people, as well as baseball. We hope you've learned a little bit how to respect your body, treat it with the utmost respect, and of all else, we want to tell everybody, go out, teach the youngsters the specifics, the fundamentals of the game, and bottom line for the young people out there, if you're watching, have fun. Don't take it too serious. but winning is not everything. Well, we hope you enjoyed the show this month. Thanks for watching. I'm Steve Erickson. If you don't play sport, at least be one.
You're watching DCTV, your